Hello and welcome back to my second Flosstube video. Thank you so much to everyone who watched the first one. Thank you to those who've been regular subscribers for a little while, watching all my other craft videos, and thank you to all the new people who have subscribed in the last couple of weeks. If you've not already subscribed, here's your chance to do that. Click on the notification bell if you'd like updates of whenever I'm loading up new videos, and don't forget to like, comment, share, whatever you want. So today, I think a little bit shorter video, famous last words. I've got a finished object to show you, a not finished object, which I'm not going to call a work in progress because I don't think there's going to be any more progress. And I've got an unboxing. And just a couple of things to say about the Carmen stitch along, although not much to show you with respect to that. So I'm going to start with my finished object. I have been following on Instagram a thing which I think only started in November, a hashtag which is hashtag Freebies on the first, and it's first with a 1, not spelled out first with an FIR. Freebies on the first, and it's just a reminder that there's a lot of really great, often small, free cross-stitch patterns out there. A lot of designers will put out occasional little free patterns. Sometimes they come free if you sign up for their newsletter. Sometimes they're just on their website. Sometimes they are free for a limited time, in which case sometimes they're much bigger, more complicated designs. And so just a reminder that actually you've got those free patterns because you liked them. Why not remember to actually stitch them? So I chose this one. This is the Hope Celebration Small from Hello from Liz. Say that again. Hello from Liz Matthews. So all year, Liz Matthews has been putting out these little patterns drawn from elements in some of her larger designs. They often come with more than one option. So there's another option to do this Hope pattern with sort of, instead of the flowers here, like almost a feather design going horizontally under the word. But I liked this one. You will notice, if you know this pattern, this is not an exact representation of Liz's pattern, and that is generally something you will notice when I stitch. I'm not very good at just following a pattern. Sometimes I make mistakes like everyone, and sometimes I even go and fix the mistakes. But quite often I make design choices, deliberate design choices, as I go along. So in this design, I knew from the first that I wasn't going to stitch the little sort of flowers she has dotted around, just little 4-stitch flowers around the edges. I didn't want to add that to my version of it. But the other thing I sort of did, which kind of came as I went along, is I wanted my 3 flowers to be quite different. So you'll see I have them at different heights, but also I've made differences in the way that I've stitched the very top part of each flower. They begin the same, but they all sort of have different, finishing looks. And I don't know, that to me that's more realistic. These are obviously very stylized flowers anyway, but I just enjoyed having them all be a little bit different. So that's how I stitched that. I'm really pleased with how the colours that I chose worked on this. So I used 2 colours of pink from Classic Colourworks. The paler one is called Blushing Beauty and the darker one is Carrie Berry. And I really like, when you look at it, you can't see exactly when one shifts into the other because the variegations overlap between those 2 different colourways. And I think that looks really, really lovely. The green is just one colour. It's Classic Colourworks Creeping Jenny. In an ideal world, I'd have chosen a slightly deeper, brighter green. This is a little bit pale on this fabric, but it's what I had and I still like it. It's a little bit less visible than it might have been. So I stitched that up. I stitched it up pretty quickly. The first day I stitched it, I made, I don't know how many mistakes, and in the end just gave up. They were not design choices, they were mistakes, and restarted on a different part of the fabric. But once I got going, I don't know, 2 or 3 evenings, something like that, not a long time at all. And then when I finished it, I knew I wanted to finish it in a hoop. I've got a whole sort of gallery wall of round things, so I knew I wanted a circular finish in a hoop. And I bought these little hoops really cheaply somewhere, knowing that I'd never use them for stitching, but that I'd want to use them for display. Because I was using a scrap of leftover fabric for my cross stitch, it wasn't quite big enough just to fit into the hoop on its own. So what do? Well, because, you know, it looks like it is. No, it isn't. So the first thing I did was take my cross stitch fabric and stitch it, machine stitch it onto a piece of quilting fabric. So I had this pink spotted, not polka dot, that's my hobby horse, I won't go on about that again, pink dotted quilting fabric, stitched this cross stitch onto it in a circle, trimmed around it. Now that gave me a piece of fabric which is quite a lot bigger, plenty big enough to frame in the hoop. But you could just see around certain parts of it where the fabric was really quite near to the edge, some of the edge of the cross stitch fabric and some of the pink fabric showing through. So what I did, I framed it up, stretched it in the hoop, and then I sewed on. You probably do this before you sewed on, but I sort of like that I did it afterwards because it kind of covers up quite a lot of the hoop itself. This variegated ribbon. I say ribbon. It was bought in a yarn shop by a friend who was trying to give me, who was giving me a lovely Christmas present, and I thought, oh, I know, I'll go and choose Roz some really lovely yarn. And it is lovely. The colours are absolutely me, but I couldn't imagine myself wanting to knit with it. I don't really like the fabric that it produces when you knit with it. But I kept this ball of yarn for ages because I liked it so much. And then when I was looking for something to finish this off, I was like, that is exactly the right colour. I mean, I've got loads of it, so you may well see it on other things. And so I just stitched it in. It's a sort of ribbon yarn. I don't know if I can really show you that, where it's almost like a netting in the yarn itself that can stretch out. And it's really easy to work with. And so I just couched it down, making it into sort of little loops and shapes to give it some texture, and that covers up really nicely the edge of the cross stitch fabric, and as I say, most of the hoop as well. I don't mind that you can see a little bit of the hoop. I also used a piece of it just to glue around the edge of the hoop rather than painting it or doing anything else to it. I thought that would be a nice touch, and then I used a bit more of the pink fabric to cover up the back. The other thing that I did do with this, that I'm really pleased with how that worked out, is I put 2 layers of quilt batting, quite high loft quilt batting, in between the front fabric and then the back finishing here, and really laced it tightly. When I put it in, it was sort of up to about here, and I really laced it tightly across the back and then stitched down the backing. And I just think that gives a really nice sort of camber to the front of the piece. It's not flat. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not flat over the center of the thing, and it just helps the fabric look really taut and nicely finished off. So that's my finished object. I have also been cross stitching on one other thing, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk to you about it. So it's this: there is always time for tea, which is basically a motto to live life by. And mostly I have been drinking tea while I've been stitching it, and there was at least one incident, I don't know if you can see it on camera, where there is now tea on this fabric. I know people like to use tea and coffee sometimes to dye fabrics. I would recommend doing that before you stitch on your fabric rather than during stitching on your fabric. This was another freebies on the first. It's a freebie from Tiny Modernist. There's going to be a cup of tea here with steam coming off, and there's also a floral border across the top. There are 2 designs. There's another one that's a coffee design. I can't remember what it says. I don't really drink coffee, so I thought I would just do the tea one. But, and there's a little lesson for us all here, certainly for me, I decided to start stitching this quite late one evening when there was obviously no natural light, nearly at the shortest day of the year here, and I got out all my threads, I have a nearly complete set of anchor threads, and pick colours I thought I'd like. I wanted sort of bright, fresh aquas and pinks, and started stitching, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. I've made some changes as well, as usual. I sort of made the letters of the first line less curly, swishy, swirly. Made the letters in the second line a bit longer because I just thought they looked really sort of squat and stubby. I made a mistake in the T, so in the middle bit I've got this sort of transition bit. I don't know if you can see that. There's a pale pink, dark pink, and there's a sort of transition in the middle. That's supposed to be a little 4-stitch diamond shape with the background colour in the middle, and I just did it wrong, and I thought, oh, well, it's fine, I can carry on and make a different thing of it and make it almost look like an ombre effect. I just don't like it. And really what I don't like is the colours. So the lesson for us all, don't choose your colours in darkness. Don't choose your colours when all you've got is you know, what's the word I'm looking for, man-made lighting. Actually just wait till the next day and get them out when there's at least some daylight, and then look and decide what you want to do. So I think I've decided I'm not going to persevere with this. This was some Ada that when I bought the stash of anchor threads, the lady who I bought it from was losing her sight, and so sadly had decided she just needed to get rid of her whole stash. And she so I bought the threads, but she also threw in, you know, various pieces of fabric and patterns and so on that she wasn't going to need anymore. So, you know, the fabric came from free. I don't think I'm even going to bother trying to salvage any of that. I'm just going to say that didn't work and stop. And I think the lesson I have from that is, well, I mean, do choose your colours at midnight, in daylight. But also, I think from both of these, I want to say, you are in charge of your stitching. If you want to make changes to a design, make changes to a design. If you want to choose your own colours, choose your own colours. If you started something and you just don't like it, stop. It's up to you. You know, we're all doing this for fun. We're all doing this for a hobby. I don't know of anyone who's cross-stitching for, you know, work. I know people do model stitching and things, but in general, unless you've got an obligation, you can just stop if you're not enjoying something. You can just say, do you know what, it's okay that I've already sunk that much time and fabric and thread into it. I don't have to give it any more if I know I'm not going to be happy with the finished object. So this is going on the wall. I really like this. No, getting rid of that. So those are what I have been working on, and this is what I've got to show you. I'm just going to show you the back of this parcel. Can you see what it is yet? Can you see what it is yet? This is my Caterpillar cross stitch subscription box. I get the club subscription. I like it because it's very easy to cancel if there's a particular month, quarter that you don't want. So I didn't get the autumn one. It was a mandala design. It just didn't really appeal to me. It wasn't something I wanted to stitch. And actually I had cancelled this one because I thought it was going to be all Christmassy, and I just don't really stitch Christmas. But then I saw the blog post with the actual pattern on it, and I was like, actually, I really want that. I really want that. So this is the December box. This year it has been a quarterly subscription, so every 3 months. Next year it is changing to bi-monthly, so every 2 months. It's £25 for each box, including shipping. And let me show you what you get. So here we are. No, can't open it. This is what you get for doing an actual live unboxing, is you get my incompetent, there we are, it's stuck down, at open. So you can see I've literally not opened this yet. I have been very patient and waited to show you. So this is what it looks like. Got a little thank you note. You get your cross stitch pattern, come back to that in a minute, and then you get some other bits and pieces. And in this quarter's, you get a little wooden hanging penguin, with a lovely red velvet ribbon. Absolutely adorable. You get, I think there's always some kind of edible treat, and this time it's 3 of these Lindor truffles. Absolute yum. And this was the other reason why I was like, actually I do really want this, a needle minder. So I've only had one subscription box before. It was the Emma Congdon Here Comes the Sun box, and there were various things like that. There was a little cross stitch notebook and a thread holder, can't remember what else, but anyway, this time the sort of extra little gift is this penguin needle minder, and just look at him with his little bow tie. I think he's adorable. Little bow tie, little rosy cheeks. Yeah, I like a penguin. And the pattern itself is a penguin, and that's why I thought actually I do want that. I don't really stitch Christmas, but I'm definitely up for stitching a penguin. So in the kit for that, you get all the threads on the really lovely Caterpillar cross stitch thread holder that they use. So you've got space where all the thread is round. There's a little notch on this side where you can get the end to stick in, and then also the hole punch bit on the other side if you want to use that as a place to store your loose threads and so on. So really lovely. I think it's always DMC. Yeah, and all the thread that you'll need. Certainly last time I had more than sufficient by some way. You get the fabric that you need. So this is a beautiful ice blue Ada. I don't know if it will tell me anywhere what that is. And there's also a needle. Yeah, there's a random needle here, and I'm like, did they give me 2 needles? I'm like, no, that is just one of my needles, that random needle there. And then there's the box with the pattern. So yes, the DMC thread numbers here, the chart, instructions. So this would be a really great gift for someone who's never cross stitched before. Actually, there's, you know, how to read the chart, how to do a cross stitch, some top tips for keeping it looking neat. It doesn't assume that you know how to cross stitch, is what I'm saying. So if you know somebody who you think actually they're really looking to get into this as a hobby, they don't necessarily want to be overwhelmed with an enormous kit. They are never huge projects, and you know, and a sort of lovely gift thing. I can't remember if you can buy a one-off box for the subscription, but you could certainly buy 3 months worth or 6 months worth or something like that. I'll put the link in the description below because I can't remember the details of it. But I think it would be a really lovely gift to someone who is wanting to start cross stitch. Yeah, I think it's adorable. It's a penguin in a snow globe. Yeah, with little snowflakes and a little sort of point. And it is the same penguin in the needle minder with the spotted bow tie and the rosy cheeks. So I will be working on that. I am working a little bit on Carmen. I'm going to do a different video. Maybe it'll come out next weekend. Someone asked about the difference between stitching on Ada and stitching on linen. So I'm going to do a little video about different cross stitch fabrics, things to be aware of when you're deciding what fabric to use, and how to stitch well on different kinds of fabrics. And at that point, I'll show you a little bit of the progress that I've been making on Carmen as well. So I think that's all I've got that is cross stitch related. I'm going to try and do the Carmen update next weekend. I'll also be doing a general craft tube video next weekend. I've got some knitting that I've been doing. I've got some things from my art class to show you. In fact, one of those is also penguin related. And I should have some dressmaking as well. I've got a couple of things that are half done that hopefully will be ready to show you by next weekend as well. So there's that. Also, you may have noticed I'm doing an Advent series of videos. They are not craft related. It is not Vlogmas. It is not Flossmas. But if you're at all interested in Advent, proper Christian Advent, then you might want to watch those as well. There's just, I read a little bit from the Bible and a couple of thoughts about it and a couple of prayers, and then we just watch the rest of the candle burn down to an Advent hymn. So those are coming every day up until Christmas, obviously. But, you know, they're on their own playlist, and if you're interested, you might want to have a look at those. I will be back again next week. Thank you so much for watching, and like I say, if you've not already subscribed, do that. Click the notification bell, like or unlike the video, leave a comment, tell your friends, and I will hope to see you here again